Hello, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I thought today we could look at the Dictionary of Cultural Literacy. And if you've watched my channel, you know I love this book. It's just fun to look at. It's kind of gotten water damaged over the years, I think. And so it's kind of crinkly. Oh, that was really loud, sorry. So this book is from 1993, and it has all these different sections on different subjects. Like this one's the Bible. You know, maybe we should do the Bible. Could be interesting. I was thinking of doing politics, but mythology. That's always good too. Fine arts, world history. American history. I was thinking of doing, no, not world politics. That's too confusing. American politics, but do I dare? Somebody in the comments of a video said they like American politics, a couple people. So I don't know, I thought maybe. Well, this is what, sign JFK? Is it that JFK? What? Anyway, yeah, we'll look at it. It's just an alphabetical order, and they just give you definitions for different words, basically. So we can just kind of skip through for things that seem like they might be interesting. You know, I took my rings off to clean today. I forgot to put them back on. But it's me. All right, academic freedom. Hold on, let me pull my chair up. Sorry, it might get loud. The right of teachers and students to express their ideas in the classroom or in writing, free from political, religious, or institutional restrictions, even if these ideas are unpopular. Alaskan pipeline. Now remember, this book is from 1993. So a lot of the information within is dated. It's definitely dated. An oil pipeline that runs 800 miles from oil reserves in Prudhoe Bay on the northern coast of Alaska to the port of Valdez on Alaska's southern coast, from which the oil can be shipped to markets, also called the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline. Well, I wonder if this, what year did the Exxon Valdez? No, here it is. Okay. After oil was discovered in Prudhoe Bay in 1968, construction of the pipeline was delayed for several years as conservationists warned against the effects of the pipeline on ecosystems through which it would run. In 1989, an environmental disaster occurred when an oil tanker, the Exxon Valdez, ran aground and leaked millions of gallons of oil into Prince William Sound, causing the largest oil spill in U.S. history. That's the year that I graduated high school, 1989, and I remember that so clearly because there were all these images of the animals completely coated in oil, and it was a big bummer. I mean, really, really, really bad. It was a real disaster. But that's also when I learned that Dawn dish soap is the best soap because what's on my book? Did I just do that? Anyway, because they had commercials about it, which I know were commercials, but then actual people who went to work on cleaning the creatures agreed that Dawn worked the best for cleaning all the different animals and getting the grease and oil off them. So I don't know. I'm advertising for Dawn dish soap, apparently. Okay, alderman. A member of a city council, aldermen usually represent city districts called wards and work with the mayor to run the city government. Jockeying among aldermen for political influence is often associated with machine politics. American Legion, the largest organization of American veterans. You know, I've heard American Legion so many times in my life, but I never really knew that's what it meant, that it was American veterans. Open to those who participated in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. The American Legion has established an influential political position, gaining support in Congress and the federal executive branch for veterans' interest. Its efforts contributed to the creation of the Veterans Administration, which provides medical services and other benefits to veterans and their families. If you're curious about Congress and the House, I do have a video on the basics of the American government with all that. The American Legion promotes patriotism and a strong military defense. Let's see. Antitrust legislation laws passed in the United States, especially between 1890 and 1915, to prevent large business corporations called trusts from combining into monopolies in order to restrict competition. Oh, yeah. The enforcement of antitrust laws has been inconsistent. While the Bell telephone system was declared a monopoly and forced to break up, huge corporations continue to merge. I don't know why, but I remember so clearly when they made the Bell telephone break up, and I think that's when AT&T came around. I don't know why that sticks in my head. I don't know. Blue laws. Excuse me. Blue laws. Laws that prohibit certain businesses from opening on Sunday or from selling certain items on that day. Yeah. I remember in Michigan, I worked at Myers Thrifty Acres, and they couldn't sell, I think they couldn't sell alcohol on Sundays at all. And maybe after a certain time, there were all these rules about it. Blue laws apply to bars and to alcohol sales. Originally enacted to allow observation of Sunday as a Sabbath, blue laws have come under attack as violating the separation of church and state. The court, however, have upheld most blue laws on the basis that their observance has become secular and promotes Sunday as a day of rest and relaxation. A capital offense, a crime such as a murder or betrayal of one's country that is treated so seriously that death may be considered an appropriate punishment. There's Capitol Hill, the Capitol building. I've been there on January 6th. No, I'm just kidding. No, I've been there and toured it. It's awesome. Sorry. Whew, I got a cough. What is this? Checks and balances in the federal government. Yeah, we talked about this. So if you're curious about it, the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch, and what that is all about, there's a video, I think it's just called U.S. Government Basics, that I did probably a couple months ago. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, going to a Mission Impossible theme. I don't know that they have anything to do with the CIA. I wish I'd brought a drink of water up here with me. I got a little cough. An agency of the United States government responsible for coordinating information gathering activities outside the United States in the interest of national security. See, I learn something new every day. So what, the FBI is inside and the CIA is outside, is that right? I'll have to look up FBI. The CIA works with the Department of State and a variety of civilian and military organizations to protect American interests abroad and recommend directions for the American foreign policy. Wait a minute. Here's FBI, an agency of the United States government long headed by J. Edgar Hoover, which investigates violations of federal rather than state or local laws, including kidnapping, smuggling narcotics, or espionage. Checks and balances, a fundamental principle of American government guaranteed by the Constitution, whereby each branch of the government, executive, judicial, and legislative, have some measure of influence over the other branches and may choose to block procedures of the other branches. Yeah. Commander-in-Chief, the role of the United States President as highest-ranking officer in the armed forces. The Constitution provides this power, but through the system of checks and balances, gives Congress the authority to declare war. Coattail effect, the tendency for popular political party leaders to attract votes for other candidates of the same party in an election. For example, the party of a victorious presidential candidate will often win many seats in Congress as well. These congressmen are voted into office on the coattails of the president. Clear and present danger. There was a movie, I think it was Harrison Ford. Was it based on Tom Clancy? I think so. I feel like it was good, but I don't remember. The standard set by the Supreme Court for judging when freedom of speech may lawfully be limited. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr. illustrated the point by arguing that no one has a constitutional right to shout fire in a crowded theater when no fire is present, for such an action would pose a clear and present danger to public safety. The United States Constitution, a document that embodies the fundamental laws and principles by which the United States is governed. It was drafted by the Constitutional Convention and later supplemented by the Bill of Rights and other amendments. A conscientious objector, a person who refuses to render military service on the grounds of moral principle or religious beliefs. A CO must demonstrate a sincere, active, and long-standing objection in order to receive an exemption from the armed service. And then they have all the departments: Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Defense, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Justice, Labor, State, Transportation, Treasury. A diehard, anyone who stubbornly resists change, often used to describe extreme conservatives. The term diehard is also applied to those who remain loyal to a cause even after there is no hope of victory. Even though it was clear that the governor had lost the election, a few diehards remained at the rally. Dollar diplomacy, the use of diplomatic influence, economic pressure, and military power to protect a nation's economic and business interests abroad. The term was first used to describe the exploitative nature of United States involvement in Latin America. Donkey, a symbol of the Democratic Party, introduced in a series of political cartoons by Thomas Nast during the congressional elections of 1874. Compare elephant. Okay, I will. Compare elephant. Oh, it must be right here. Elephant. There he is. A symbol of the Republican Party, introduced in a series of political cartoons by Thomas Nast during the congressional elections of 1870. So this Thomas Nast, sorry about that, introduced both the donkey and the elephant in political cartoons. I feel like they should have a picture of those. E pluribus unum, the Great Seal of the United States. And there's the eagle with the American crest floating on his chest. And he has 13 arrows that signify the 13 colonies. And he has an olive branch that signify peace. And his head is turning towards peace because he aims for peace but is ready for war. I have a video about the bald eagle, and I talk about that. That's how I know that. The Electoral College, the presidential electors who meet after the citizens vote for president and cast ballots for the president and vice president. Each state is granted the same number of electors as it has senators. Okay, we'll have to do a video on the Electoral College because that's interesting. Each state is granted the same number of electors as it has senators and representatives combined. These electors, rather than the public, actually elect the president and the vice president. The Founding Fathers assumed that electors would exercise discretion and not necessarily be bound by the popular vote. But the rise of political parties undermined this assumption. Electors are now pledged in advance to vote for the candidate of their party, and nearly always do so. Thus, the vote of the Electoral College is largely a formality. But the rise of the political parties undermined. Electors are now pledged in advance to vote for the candidate of their party. Nearly always do. I feel confused a little bit. Anyway, there have been several attempts to abolish the Electoral College. All right, I'm going to have to do a deep dive. Equal Rights Amendment, a twice proposed but never ratified amendment of the Constitution that would prohibit denial or abridgment of rights on the basis of gender. First proposed in 1923, the amendment was passed by Congress in 1972, but failed ratification by the requisite number of states. It was a major rallying point of the women's movement. 1993. Okay, Farm Bloc, a group of both Democratic and Republican members of Congress from the farming states of the Middle West that pressure the federal government to adopt politics favorable to farmers. Favorite son. A political figure nominated for the presidency by his or her state's delegation to the National Nominating Convention of the major party. Favorite sons are rarely serious candidates for the party's nomination. By nominating a favorite son, the delegation honors its nominee while simultaneously delaying its commitment until the more serious contenders for the nomination can be sorted out. I've never heard of that. I have not. The fifth Amendment, one of the 10 amendments to the United States Constitution that makes up the Bill of Rights. The Fifth Amendment imposes restrictions on the government's prosecution of persons accused of crimes. It prohibits self-incrimination and double jeopardy, and mandates due process of the law. To take the Fifth is to refuse to testify because the testimony could lead to self-incrimination. Freedom of assembly, the right to hold public meetings and form associations without interference by the government. Freedom of peaceful assembly is guaranteed by the First Amendment to the Constitution. Gerrymander, look at that guy. Gerrymander. To change the boundaries of legislative districts to favor one party over another. Typically, the dominant party in a state legislature, which is responsible for drawing the boundaries of congressional districts, will try to concentrate the opposing party's strength in as few districts as possible, while giving itself likely majorities in as many districts as possible. Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on. If you look at the districts real carefully, you'll be like, wait, what? It is interesting. GOP, abbreviation Grand Old Party, a nickname for the Republican Party in the United States. Habeas corpus, a legal term meaning that an accused person must be presented physically before the court with a statement demonstrating sufficient cause for arrest. Thus, no accuser may imprison someone indefinitely without bringing that person and the charges against him or her into the courtroom. In Latin, habeas corpus literally means you shall have the body. Habeas corpus. Hawks and doves. Never heard that. Popularly, hawks are those who advocate an aggressive foreign policy based on strong military power. Doves try to resolve international conflicts with the threat of force. Oh, sorry, I knocked the camera thing. Homicide, the killing of one person by another, whether intended, murder, or not, manslaughter. Not all homicide is unlawful. Killing in self-defense, for example, is not a crime. Mafia, a criminal organization that originated in Sicily and was brought to the United States by Italian immigrants in the late 19th century, which would be the 1880s and 90s. I have a video on what century is it, if you're curious. The mafia is also called the syndicate, the mob, and the Cosa Nostra. The Cosa Nostra, our thing. The mafia built its power through extortion. And it says forcing tradesmen and shopkeepers to buy mafia protection against destruction. And by dominating the bootlegging industry, the illegal production and distribution of liquor during Prohibition. Members of the mafia often lead outwardly respectable lives and maintain a variety of legitimate businesses as a front or cover for their criminal activities, which include extortion, gambling, and narcotics distribution. I've known a few people who have told me stories, but this one guy told me his friend thought he'd go into the vending machine business. And this is probably in the 80s, maybe early 90s. And so he started putting vending machines. He was from Detroit, but he kind of went Detroit down into like Ohio. and very quickly was contacted by the mafia and told in no uncertain terms to get his vending machines out of the area. So that's kind of interesting. Apparently, they own vending machines. I don't know if that's still true. And was that like cigarette vending? I don't know. I'm not sure. They used to have, you could buy packs of cigarettes in vending machines back in the old days. Jurisprudence, the philosophy of law, period. Jurisprudence implies creating a body of law and methods for interpreting the law, studying the relationships between the law and society, and predicting the effects of legal decisions. In the United States, lawmakers, attorneys, scholars, and courts all take an active role in guiding jurisprudence. A kangaroo court, a court that ignores principles of justice, a court characterized by incompetence and dishonesty. Larceny, theft, taking another person's property with the intent of permanently depriving the owner. A man's home is his castle, a proverbial expression that illustrates the principle of individual privacy, which is fundamental to the American system of government. In this regard, the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, part of the Bill of Rights, prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures. Disagreement over the extent of personal privacy and over interpretation of unreasonable has brought many cases before the Supreme Court. Oh, I want to do one. I've been to Oak Ridge a bunch of times, and I want to do a video about that. Oak Ridge, a city in Tennessee where uranium for the atomic bomb was produced during World War II. Since that time, the government has maintained a variety of nuclear research facilities in Oak Ridge. See also Manhattan Project. Okay, I will. How did I miss it? Manhattan Project. Well, it should be right here. Is it? Oh, it's not in this section. Is that it? A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Manhattan Project. Wow, there are a lot of M's. It's right here, you guys. Manhattan Project 285. Manhattan Project, the code name for the effort to develop atomic bombs for the United States during World War II. The first controlled nuclear reaction took place in Chicago in 1942, and by 1945, that's a weird comma, bombs had been manufactured that used this chain reaction to produce great explosive force. The project was carried out in enormous secrecy. After a test explosion on July of 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yep. On the Hill, a phrase referring to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where Congress meets. They're debating the nuclear waste issue on the Hill today. Yes. Peace Corps, an agency of the United States government that sends American volunteers to developing nations to help improve living standards and provide training. Created by President John F. Kennedy in 1961 under the auspices of the Department of State, the Peace Corps provides an opportunity to share American wealth, technology, and expertise. I had a cousin who worked for the Peace Corps in Africa. I think he liked it very much. Rugged individualism, the belief that all individuals, or nearly all individuals, can succeed on their own, and that government help for people should be minimal. The phrase is often associated with policies of the Republican Party and was widely used by the Republican President Herbert Hoover. Hey guys, I have my thing here. Hold on. Let's just take a look-see at what old Herbert Hoover looked like. There he is. There's Mr. Herbert Hoover. You know, I don't know why. Somewhere I heard somebody talking about who was the last president who had a mustache. And I think they said Taft. But I'm looking at this right now. Do you guys think that Truman has a mustache? I can't tell. It might be like Taft had a mustache, Roosevelt, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, Arthur, Garfield, like everybody. Well, no, these guys are clean. That's not the best picture of Abraham Lincoln I've ever seen. Anyway, okay. Where were we? The phrase was later used in scorn by the Democratic president Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman to refer to the disasters of Hoover's administration during the Wall Street crash of 1929 during which the Wall Street crash of 1929 occurred and the Great Depression began. Great Depression. Yikes. The three branches of the United States government: the Constitution, the President and the Executive Branch, the Legislative Branch, and the Judicial Branch. I want you for the U.S. Army. Uncle Sam, I feel like in the 1976 period, he was everywhere, but you just don't see Uncle Sam much anymore. I wonder if I asked my kids who that was, if they'd even know that. I don't know. I don't know if young people know that. You guys tell me. Do you guys know who Uncle Sam is? They used to always have Uncle Sam on, I guess now he's on car commercials maybe. Suffragettes, 3 women circa 1910 demonstrating for the right to vote. Suffrage, the right to vote. In the United States, the term is often associated with the women's movement to win voting rights. A suffragist, a participant in the women's movement to win voting rights in the United States. The fight for women's suffrage was organized in the middle of the 19th century. Wyoming, while not yet a state, granted women's suffrage in 1869. Though the struggle for universal suffrage was to last another 50 years. Wow. In 1920, the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified, guaranteeing that no state could deny the right to vote on the basis of sex. A think tank, an institution in which scholars pursue research in public policy. Largely funded by endowments and grants, think tanks work to improve public awareness of policy issues and to influence the government to act upon issues of national importance. The ugly American. I've seen these. Pejorative term for Americans traveling or living abroad who remain ignorant of local culture and judge everything by American standards. Okay, as a person who has traveled quite a bit, I see this and I can't stand it. You definitely see ugly Americans who are like, oh, you guys don't know what you're doing, and say that to people, and it's like, shut up. Shut up. And also, they seem happier than you, so maybe they're doing something right. Okay. a victimless crime, a term sometimes used for various acts that are considered crimes under the law, but that apparently have no victim. One such crime is prostitution, which is viewed by some as a commercial exchange between two consenting adults. Vigilantes, volunteer citizens who organize to suppress crime where official police forces are weak or non-existent. Yankee, originally a nickname for people from New England, now applied to anyone from the United States. Even before the American Revolution, the term Yankee was used by the British to refer derisively to the American colonists. Since the Civil War, American Southerners have called all Northerners Yankees. Since World War I, the rest of the world has used the term to refer to all Americans. The expression Yankee go home reflects foreign resentment of American presence or involvement in other nations' affairs. So there you go, a little bit about American politics. But we have